This programming is brought to you by the Friends of Kevin Cahill. As a strong advocate of local broadcasting, Assemblymember Cahill urges you to support Kingston Community Radio with your time and donations. Your contributions keep KCR vital and on the air at FM 92.5, AM 920, and on the web at mykcr.org. Please join Assemblymember Cahill and send your gifts of $10, $25, or more to Kingston Community Radio, Post Office Box 4364, Kingston, New York 12402. Together, let's keep KCR alive.
Well, good morning, Rick.
Lawrence, how are you this morning?
I'm good. I guess our rambling on this morning, talking about golf, and I started late today. People that were sitting around waiting for us to come on at 7 o'clock, I apologize. We were sitting here shooting the breeze.
Shooting the breeze, right.
Talking about golf and Bethpage Black and how wonderful the weather's been, though the pollen is not so great. You can see it going through the air. And
you know how many times I've washed my car this week?
Well, I almost went yesterday again, but I was like, why? I'll just wait for a good rain. Until we get a good rain, then it will wash the pollen. You can actually see it blowing through the air. It's pretty
I know.
disgusting.
Well, it's going to be a beautiful. I mean, this weather this past week has just been out of this world.
Phenomenal. Though yesterday it was a little warm.
You know, you're right. I went and played a course
like
yesterday in Port Jervis. It used to be called Port Jervis Country Club. It's now called the Links at River Bend. But I teed off around 10:30, and boy, in the back nine is about the last 3 or 4 holes. I go, man, it's really getting hot out.
It was warm.
Not used to it.
Yeah, 88 or 89 yesterday.
Yeah, but it's going to be a beautiful weekend. Love this weather, and we can deal with the pollen if we have to, right?
That's right.
So
It's better than minus 10, right?
I never complain about the heat. You can always turn on the air conditioning, but when you're going out at like 20 degrees with a wind chill about 10 degrees, not much you can do.
No, there's not much you can do. I mean, I like to ski, so I deal with the cold a little bit, but yeah, we went to Vermont this year on a ski trip, and God, I forgot how much colder it is up there compared to New York, man. It's a brisk cold and much drier too, but yes, the summer, it seems like we went right from cold into being pretty warm. Last week I had the windows open when I was going to bed on some nights, and now it seems that I didn't even turn my air conditioner off from when I woke up yesterday. It stayed on all day in my bedroom yesterday. So
did you watch it? You watched a little of the PGA?
I did. I was. I'm still confused about what was going on with this playing games. I thought with the NBA that if you lost in the first round, you were done. Apparently last night they had another game. Now Washington is in, but they had lost Tuesday night to the Celtics. I'm confused with it all. So I turned the PGA Championship on, and it looks like a nice course, though the greens looked terrible, but you explained that it's near the ocean, so.
Yeah, Kiowa Island is an ocean course.
Is that near Myrtle Beach?
Yeah, it's not that far. Not that far from Myrtle Beach. The difference between Myrtle Beach, it's a resort course. You know, they have the RBC Heritage, that course which is really nice in that area. But what the PGA and the USGA do for these tournaments is, they like to make them a little more challenging. This one is like the longest golf course they played in a major. It's almost 7,900 yards, which
that's like 1,000 yards more than a normal. Usually it's like 60 something, right? 60
well, they've gotten to where now the normal golf course is like
a 700 par 5 or something. That's ridiculous.
Well, you're having 650-yard par 5s, though. It's not that unusual.
It would take me 10 strokes to get that ball in the hole.
Well, if the fairways firm up, you get a lot of roll. But these guys hit the ball so far. It's just.
Well, they were showing last night the miles per hour. The one guy, I forget who it was, when he hits the ball up from the tee box, the ball's going about 180 miles an hour for some of these bigger guys. Now, I mean, I would imagine John Daly was probably hitting above that because that was probably one of his better games.
Yeah, John Daly, I'm sure, was in that ballpark. But Bryson DeChambeau is the guy that's really has.
Yeah, he can really crank it. Yeah, but comparing that to tennis on the United States Tennis Tour or whatever, the UTA, there's some of the bigger players, some of the better tennis players. they're serving the ball at around 130. I know Andy Roddick used to serve the ball at around 131. So, I mean, he's using a little tennis racket. These guys are using clubs with, big faces on it. But obviously it's a different ball. A golf ball can sail farther than a tennis ball. But it's just the power that these athletes have. It's
Jack
amazing.
Nicklaus, for 25 years now, has been preaching, and I used to go down to cover the Masters for 10 years in the 90s and through 2003. Every year he would talk about the golf ball. You got to do something about the golf ball, not for the regular golfers, but for the PGA Tour guys, because you can't make these golf courses, the ones that are set in the parkland, they call them parkland courses. There's only so much property that you can expand a golf course, and now you got one that's almost 8,000 yards, and guys are still shooting under par.
That's ridiculous.
But of course, that's not us.
No. That's 80 football fields. That's amazing.
Looking forward this weekend, actually tomorrow, you and I touched briefly this morning about the NBA playoffs. My son and I, Ted, are going down to see the Brooklyn Nets.
You're not a Knicks fan?
I got to tell you, Lawrence, when I became a Nets fan about 30 years ago. I used to like the Knicks.
Okay, when they were in New Jersey.
Yeah, but you couldn't get tickets to the Knicks.
You can't, I've only been to the Garden once to see the Knicks. I've lived in Florida for 8 years or 7 years, and I went to see the Knicks every time they came to town because people in Florida prior to them signing Shaquille O'Neal. You could go to the Dolphins game, sit in the 50-yard line. You could go to the Heat game, sit 7 rows behind the bench. When the Florida Panthers first came around, you could sit right behind the bench.
Oh yeah.
And same with the Marlins. The Marlins never used to sell out either. People aren't into, it's not like in the Northeast where everybody, the Giants are sold out,
right.
Jets are sold out, Rangers, Knicks, all that kind of stuff.
But that's why we became Nets fans, because you could get tickets in the Meadowlands and then Prudential in Newark. But Brooklyn, love Brooklyn, love their team. They're playing Saturday night.
How much was that ticket? Not that you don't mind me asking.
Here's the deal. First row in the upper deck. What do you think? Take a guess.
For an NBA playoff game?
Upper deck.
$300-$400?
What?
$300-$400?
No, well, $139. Comparable seat in Boston, because I priced it, $75.
Wow.
So it's almost double in New York over Boston. And Boston's a big market, and all the titles the Celtics have won.
Yeah, the Celtics haven't really been...
Right.
Right, yeah. Yeah, it is
but,
what it is.
you go to one game.
Well, what time's the game tomorrow?
8 o'clock.
Okay, the Knicks don't play till Sunday, so...
Great job by the Knicks. Tom Thibodeau,
yeah,
fantastic
I hope he gets coach of the
coach.
year. He deserves it.
Yeah, I mean...
especially dealing with Jimmy Dolan, who's like he's a pain in the ass, man. Anyway, who do you got on the lineup today for who's coming in today?
I'm really excited. Well, at 8:30, we you know him, Brian Bonesteel.
Yeah.
The owner
Owns
of
Green
Acres. Done a fantastic job at Green Acres. Very excited to talk to him. And from 7:30 to 8:30, I have Josiah Brown. And his nickname is the New York Sherpa because he goes everywhere. He sees all these tourism sites. He has his own, he's the chair of the New York State Tourism Industry Association. He has his own business. And I can't tell, he'll tell us how many miles. I think he put somewhere in 100,000. Well, here's his bio. He says he's driven nearly 700,000 miles visiting tourism destinations and experiences in the last 10 years. So that's pretty good. So Josiah really knows.
That's almost as long as the PGA Championship.
Yeah. But so he'll be good and talk us what's going on in coming out of the pandemic, how tourism, the destinations and hospitality is going to do. And Brian has done a wonderful job over at Green Acres. It's just...
yeah, that place has come a long way.
And it's busy, which I'm sure he'll tell you.
I don't know. They used to have this thing during the summer where if you play after 6 o'clock, it was the nighttime thing. It was I think it was half price off. Me and my friend Javier Tejada used to do it all the time. This was 15 years ago, but we used to play, I think it's after 6 o'clock, you tee off, and it was only I think it was $20 with the cart for the 9 holes or whatever. It was cheap. I'm sure it's more than that now, but
It's still very reasonable, and I'll
Yeah.
tell you, with the dearth of golf courses around here, I'm so happy that Green Acres is really doing well because we've had a lot of golf courses close, which is unfortunate.
yes. Yeah, I mean, Wiltwick was on the verge of closing. And
They
then
were very close, but they're
Yeah.
back now. But not everybody can. Oh well, the public can play over there now. It's very fairly affordable.
Right. I think they had no choice with back 20, 30 years ago to get in Wiltwick, they wanted a bond from
Yep.
you. You know,
I was a member there. You needed a bond. The fees were like $6,000 for a
it
single,
was expensive.
and that did not. That you know,
We were members. Me and my mother and father weren't big on golf when I was young. We went to Calbar. It was up end of Linderman Avenue there. Over, I'm sure I don't know if you know Calbar. Actually, Cameron Rylance or you know Cam.
Yep.
He is. I don't know if he's the president still, but his kids went there. Actually, my mother and father and Dave and Elaine. They all knew each other from there. And we liked Calbar growing up. It was nice until I was able to go to Dudley's, so I went there for many years. But I think we joined Wiltwick one year, and it just wasn't worth it.
Well, you gotta- if you're a
seemed to
member,
be a
you
little
got-
more. Yeah, there was just all that money, and I remember my father having a hard time getting tee times. My mother couldn't play tennis all the time, and it was just Calbar was better for us.
Okay.
So we liked that.
Well, I was a member there 3-4 years, but if I was working at the time. If you can't play 2 or 3 times at least, you don't feel like you're getting your money's
Yeah,
worth.
definitely. Not at those prices. Yeah, definitely.
But now it's open to the public, so Wiltwick's doing good. Green Acres, Stone Dock has some new owners.
Yeah, I used to like that's the one in High Falls, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I used to like Stone Dock. Though sometimes the bugs would be a little bad in the spring because of all that standing water out there, but I still like the course. I like that a lot. Roundout Roundout, the one out in Accord? I like that course.
Yeah, well,
Is that still there?
No, they're coming in with a new course.
boy.
Roundout's been closed for a while, but it's going to be called Innis, and
Oh,
it's
really?
going to be a high-end 9-hole course. That's another person I'm going to get later on. They're not opening until next month, and I've already talked to John DeForest Sr., who used to be the pro at Roundout. He's the director of golf there. So we're going to talk to John about that and when the course is opening, and it's supposed to be very nice. And by the way, for people in Ellenville, Schwangung Country Club, now called the Joe Steckler Memorial, that's doing very well. So there are some options. We did lose the Hudson Valley Resort. I don't think I have been on the show since I ran into Tony Bakke, the owner of Lazy Swan. He says he's considering reopening this year, so we'll see if that happens.
Doesn't he have to keep pay for bills? I mean,
No, Tony is retired now. He did very well in the medical business, so I don't think
still got to pay taxes and stuff like that, though, don't you?
Yeah, we'll let Tony talk about that.
So Catspan's been closed obviously all last year because of COVID,
Right.
And he still hasn't decided to open up this year.
I ran into him of all places in the parking lot of the Port Ewan Diner, and
That's a great diner.
yeah, it is a great
Port
diner.
Ewan Diner is awesome.
I love that. So I asked him. He told me he was retired. He had his medical business over at Dutchess Country Club, which he closed and has not reopened. And I said, "What are you gonna do in your retirement?" He says, "Well, that's funny you ask because I had a meeting yesterday with some people about up at Lazy Swan, and I'm thinking about reopening that. So we'll see." The for sale sign is still out there. The last I checked,
there's a
though.
for sale sign out there.
Yeah, so it's not open yet.
Well, maybe he's hoping, like the rest of people that live in Ulster County, that someone's going to come through and give him a ridiculous amount of money, for houses. I just heard a house when I grew up on Mountain View and Pearl Street. Me and my mother were talking about houses the other day, and this and that, and she said, one of our former neighbors, she's like, that house, it was one of the not too small, one of the smaller houses in the neighborhood, sold for $700,000, and I'm thinking, geez, Mom, that's probably what and this house was tiny, it was probably like 2,000 square feet, somewhere in there, but I was like, $700,000. She's like, do you know what they bought that house for back in 1975? It was like $19,000 or whatever.
Return on investment is pretty good on that
Well,
property.
yeah, I think they've been now. That family's been probably 3 or 4 families removed since then. But Mike Brune, Mike Brune Jr. bought. He lived in the house where I grew up in Four Mountain View. When he had twins, he had to move out of there. He had a bigger family. He just recently sold that house before COVID, I think, or right around for like $425, and that was I was shocked at that price. But then to hear that the neighbor sold for $700,000, I'm like, there's no way in hell I'm ever getting a house at these prices. So.
Yeah, it's a good seller's market, but not so good for the buyer.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, if you've been renting a brownstone in Brooklyn or somewhere nice at $7,200 a month, you can move up here to the Ulster County, which is really not too far from New York City. I mean, we're only about
90 minutes from Midtown Manhattan, I'd always say.
Yeah, you could probably be there now with the speed limit at 65. They let you do 72. You could probably be there in an hour and 15, 20 minutes. So people don't have the problem commuting. And, let's face it, New York City took a hit from COVID, and people like the nice clean air up here, though. So we'll see.
Well, it's a great area to not only live, but to play and to work, obviously, as my former boss, Mike Hine, used to say. But, a lot of businesses now, particularly, you can do everything remote. There's no reason to have office space in New York City, and
right.
you can get away with no office space here in Ulster County. Just move up. So
yeah,
a lot of tech companies have relocated, so that's good for the county.
Well, hopefully that'll be good for IBM or the old former IBM place, because some of that's still empty. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with that. I see that I haven't heard from anybody in the county, but I saw they put the screen up against the wall at Tech City again, so where they had drive-in movies last year.
So they put that back up.
I'm anticipating. I haven't heard from anybody, but I'm anticipating that again. So, drive-ins did really great last year. Did you go to any drive-in movies? I went to a few.
The last I know where I used to go to, besides Florida, where we used to go to them all the time, because it was like $1.50 and you could watch like 8 movies if you had the time or whatever. I used to go to the one in Hyde Park, though.
Yep.
Yeah, that one was cool. I used to like that one. When I was younger, teenager or whatever, sometimes we would go over there. That was back before you could tune it in on the radio.
Right.
And you used to hang that thing on
the
your
little
window.
box.
Yeah, that was actually a cool little drive-in theater down there. They actually have them in Florida, in Sunrise, Florida, where the lady still skates up to your car on roller skates, or at least this was prior to COVID, and asks you what you want, and then puts the tray on your window or whatever.
They were doing that at Sonic until Sonic closed.
Yeah, that's true. They were doing that. I like Sonic.
I don't understand why that didn't make it. I really don't.
Yeah.
It's still, there's one over in the Middletown area that does pretty well.
I like Sonic. I was sorry to see them go too.
I don't like to go into too many of my colleagues.
I don't try to eat too much fast food either, but it happens. So.
Here's what we used to do in college. We used to get a car. We try to get a big sedan, and we have like 2 guys in the front seat, and then the 2 of us would go into the trunk and sneak in the trunk.
Why? 'Cause they would charge you per person in the car?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They do that. That's right.
Those were the college days.
Those were the college days, yeah.
So
what was the drive-in back then, $1?
Yeah, God, probably. But when you're a college kid, you don't have any money, right?
No. Absolutely not.
If you're going to save it, you're not going to spend it on a drive-in.
If you are going to spend it, it's not going to, you'll cut corners where you can. So.
Where did you go to school?
I didn't go to college. I went right to work.
The School of Hard Knocks.
When I graduated high school, I moved to Vail, Colorado, and started skiing and working out there. I wasn't into school too much. You know what I mean? I liked it. I graduated, but I didn't. My father's like, well, then you're going to work. You might as well just start learning how to take care of yourself now. Actually, that was probably the best thing that I ever did, because by the time I was, 25, I already had a really good work ethic, because I had been working since I was 18. So I stayed in Colorado for a couple years. Did just whatever, worked. I skied during the day. I worked at a pizza place at night. Moved to Florida for like 8 years, and then moved back here in like 2005, and did odd jobs. I worked at the Beekman Arms. I worked all over, and then when my father passed away, I came here, Actually, we got a call. Hang on a second. All right, so Rick, that is your 7:30 guest. Why don't we go to break now,
Sure.
and then we can come back and start a little early with him. How's that?
Sounds like a plan.
All right, we'll be back in a few, listeners.
You're listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
100 years ago, there were 100,000 tigers in the wild. Today, there are as few as 3,200. The Earth's wild animals can't speak up when they need help, but we can. Be the voice for those who have no voice. Visit worldwildlife.org.
Everyone is talking about healthcare these days. America spends twice that of other developed countries on our healthcare system, yet our health ranks near the bottom. How can we stop spending so much and getting so little? By shifting to a system that gives more patients access to strong primary care. Primary care can help make America healthy again. To learn more about the benefits of primary care, visit www.healthisprimary.org. This message is brought to you by America's Family Physicians.
Screening exams for breast, lung, or colorectal cancers are necessary to detect and treat disease at its earliest, most curable stage. But you may have some concerns and questions. Answer your questions and ease your fears by visiting radiologyinfo.org. In addition to information on screening and wellness, you'll find more than 200 descriptions of radiologic exams, procedures, and treatments to help you prepare. Get informed and be prepared. Visit radiologyinfo.org, produced by the Radiological Society of North America and the American College of Radiology.
Hi, my name is Jackie Lovezzo. I'm from Lake Katrine, and I support the Kingston Community Radio because it is an invaluable resource to the community and its residents.
This portion of Kingston Community Radio has been brought to you by the First Savings Bank in Ulster County that still remains local to this day. Ulster Savings Bank, a community bank that's invested in local business, invested in community, invested in you. Ulster Savings Bank, your one-stop resource for everything local. Locations throughout the Hudson Valley and online at ulstersavings.com. Member FDIC.
Okay, Lawrence, I know we have our guest on the line. I just want to give a little brief intro. After driving nearly 700,000 miles visiting tourism destinations and experiences, our guest, Josiah Brown, has lived up to the nickname the New York Sherpa. As founder of New York's Best Experiences, he has never left his foundations of branding first strategies. He's talked to 10,000 travelers personally per year, has strongly shaped the presentations and talks he does every year in the tourism industry. He's also serves as the chair of the New York State Tourism Industry Association. So, Josiah, are you there, my friend?
I am here, Radio Rick Remsnyder, as I live and breathe. How are you, buddy?
Doing well, doing well. I appreciate you being on and spending the next hour talking about tourism and hospitality. Before I forget, if anybody wants to call and talk about anything, but specifically tourism with Josiah, it'd be great. Just call us at 331-9255. So, Josiah, what have you been up to lately? Let's start with that.
Well, I felt like, there I am in the middle of 2020, and I'm a guy who speaks at events, promotes travel, and hosts live events to promote New York. And I stand in there in the middle of 2020, and like the plastic straw salesman and I were like looking at each other like, well, what do we do now?
Right.
It was a bumpy road last year, but we're finally getting back at it. Things are opening up. The world is opening back up, the country, the state, and we've got a lot of work to do to repair and really restore the hardest hit industry in the state, hardest hit industry in the country, without question, was tourism.
Yeah, for Yeah, if we're being honest, it really was hit hard, and I know that the head of NISTI, of which you're the chair of, I had Bob Provost on about a month ago, and Bob told me the rather staggering numbers of losses, job losses, and the amount of money that was lost. I mean, it makes sense. People weren't traveling. I mean, how could you expect the industry to prop itself up, right?
Yeah. Well, we had spent years trying to explain and defend the value that the tourism industry really was to the state and to communities. I've spoken a lot nationally, and in 2018, 2019, as it gets when you're toward the end of a long run, a long economic run, a long growth run, a long revenue run, what happens is that people tend to get, it's not even a criticism, it's just the way it is. People tend to get a little drunk on success, and it was becoming hard. I think I spoke in 6 states in 2019. And it was getting harder and harder to defend the idea that the tourism industry had to be looked at seriously and understood seriously because it was a massive economic engine. And people were like, yeah, everything's a massive economic engine. And then you come through a time where some communities really only lose their tourism industry. Well, what does that mean? Well, the teachers still got paid in the community. The police and firefighters still got paid in the community. The hospital workers clearly still got paid in the community. But then the community was decimated because they had no visitors that year. And this is what we were trying to build the foundation and build the awareness of for years. And so in some ways we have work to do to rebuild, but in kind of like I hate to say silver linings when you're talking about something where people died. It seems odd to say that phrase, but if you understand what I mean, one of the silver linings is I don't think the tourism industry will have to defend itself as hard moving forward. I think that there will be some more recognition of this massive economic driver.
Well, I guess I introduced you as New York Sherpa, which you have richly deserved that nickname, I might add. But how does someone become the New York Sherpa? How did that story develop?
Well, so I'll back up to a Sherpa. About 50% of the people I meet know what a Sherpa is, and 50% of the people don't. So if you go to the origin of the word, the Sherpa are the natives of Nepal. They are the people that will help you climb Mount Everest. And so the quick knowledge in people's mind is, isn't a Sherpa the person that carries, your backpack up Mount Everest? And that is true, but really they embody a spirit that is much bigger than them, and that they are not only experts on the mountain, experts in hospitality, but they're incredibly warm and welcoming and overjoyed to have you there. That they're some of the purest and most original tourism hosts that tourism had. These people that would expedition off to Mount Everest and hire a team of Sherpas. So over the years, the Sherpa in the tourism industry had kind of gotten distilled down to meaning local expert or somebody who helped you, somebody who knew, in addition to just carrying your stuff. My uncle calls my aunt his Sherpa because he's a wedding photographer, and so she walks around with six cameras on, and he grabs the camera he needs at a time. So he's like, she's my Sherpa. But so I started in tourism promotion around fall of 2003, and my job was to go to every county and go to every major business in tourism in every county, and I literally spent 4 to 5 nights on the road for 4 to 5 years doing that across New York. And along the road I picked up this nickname, the New York Sherpa, and the first time I heard it absolutely, I just laughed. I said, that is a perfect description of what I do, because not only have I seen everything, have I done everything, but I really champion New York, and I want to welcome people to New York. I tell the story of New York and the story of the people And my personal transformation of traveling the state, I had not traveled the state a lot as a kid. We went to Maine. We did some summer camps in the Catskills, but primarily we went to the Maine in the summer. And so here I am, 21, 22, traveling the state, and I found the most welcoming, unbelievable people. I found the most unbelievable natural resources, beautiful communities, beautiful destinations, and I kept popping in on attractions that were world class. You know, we don't just brag about our backyard because we're proud of our backyard. I kept stumbling across attractions that were world class. I mean, imagine the first time I went up to Mohonk Mountain House, or, you know, the first time you stand 3 feet from the edge of Niagara Falls. You go, wow, I'm not just proud of this because it's my backyard and I promote it. I'm proud of this because this is world class product. And so that it kind of embodies for me that same spirit of the Sherpa, to be the ultimate hosts, to be the ultimate welcomers, and also to be the expert in their field.
You know, just doing the quick math, let's say those 700,000 miles you traveled, and let's divide it by 15 years, let's say. You know, you're talking about between 40 and 50,000 miles a year, strictly traveling in New York. Talk about before the pandemic, some of the things that you used to do in those travels. Now, I know working with you when I was a tourism director, it was great to have someone like you, because I believe, you tell me, but at least 25 to 30 travel shows and different places that you would go. Each county really doesn't have that money to do that before the pandemic, for strictly going to shows, but you provided that service. We would give you our travel guide, and you would distribute it. Talk about how many shows you went to each year, and what were your duties there, basically. And I know I've been there. I've seen you work the booth. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, sure. The we have a pretty, so when I say we, what I mean is New York's Best Experiences. New York's Best Experiences really started as a mission, and it's grown into a couple of different things. The idea of New York's Best Experiences was really born from, I have two core philosophies that have driven me in tourism, and really a mission to fulfill. So the mission is bring first-time visitors into New York State. Incredibly simple mission. Bring first-time visitors into New York State. But it's not, the more simple your mission, usually the more complex your pulling off that mission is. So I have two guiding philosophies that drive everything I do in tourism. One is that I believe that people don't travel by county or region first. They travel by personal interest first. And sometimes people outside of the industry will hear me say that, and they'll say, yeah, duh. I like to kayak, I find places to kayak, or I'm a beer lover, I find places with breweries. But inside of the tourism industry, the funding models, the way a county funds tourism, a region is funded for tourism, sometimes a city has money for tourism, we end up having to spend our money in polite little squares, and the tourism, the consumer, the visitor, they don't know where those little squares begin and end. It's the same thing as we know what county we live in, but by the time you're an hour away, they have no idea what county that is. So we have this reality where it's clean to fund snowplows by county. It's not as clean to fund tourism by county, but that is how it is. It's the easiest flow of the tourism funding. So inside of the industry, we do a lot of county and regional programming. And I stepped back and I said, but the consumer, we have to think consumer-first strategies. And the consumer, they think about personal interests. They think about things. And so I believe people travel by personal interest first. So that was the first pillar. The second pillar is that I believe that recommendations tear down the walls of fear of trying something new. So if our mission is to win first-time visitors, we have to figure out how they think. And when somebody, when you've got a mom sitting on TripAdvisor at 12:15 in the morning, and the house is quiet, and she's crawling through TripAdvisor reviews, what she's trying to do is find somebody who can help make that decision feel safe. Because it's the core of what a recommendation is. Somebody who is telling you your decision is safe, because yes, advertising will give you brand awareness, but somebody wants to know, but is it actually what they say it is? So built on those two core philosophies of personal interests drive travel and recommendations, we've noticed the massive issue that New York has with first-time visitors is that New York State very much lives in the shadow of the greatest city in the world, or has lived in the shadow of the greatest city in the world, where you would go outside of New York and travel anywhere, whether it was Connecticut, New Hampshire, or Texas, and you would say, I'm from New York. And people would say, oh, I love the city. We were there at Christmas time 3 years ago. And you'd say, no. Like, on our map, the city is amazing. It's the greatest city in the world, but it's a quarter of an inch on a 2-foot map. And so we said, if we're going to win first-time visitors to New York, we have to build programming around these philosophies, and we have to go out and do it. So we took this philosophy of a visitor center, where if you're coming up like the Thruway, as soon as you need a coffee break or a bathroom break, you're going to stop in a visitor center. And I would work in those visitor centers, and I would see people just be dazzled by what the state had to offer by looking at all of the print and the maps and the pictures. But in a way, they're already northbound in the state, so kind of mission accomplished. But I would see how dazzled they were, and I would say, okay, there's something there. So we took this concept called a mobile visitor center, where we picked up the visitor center and we brought it to Boston, we brought it to Philly, we brought it to Hartford, we brought it to Jersey, we brought it all over the East Coast, including Long Island, and sites inside of New York. And we basically worked events where we built a giant booth, a giant visitor center. We have a big wrapped vehicle, and we set up these displays, and the primary thing in the display were not places but things. So people would see beer, wine, hiking, family fun, water parks, paddling, fishing, and you'd get a guy come in and say, you have fly fishing in New York? And we'd say, we have some of the best fly fishing in New York. The Fly Fishing Museum is in Sullivan County. The dry fly tying was originated in the Roscoe area, like literally fly fishing in America began down on the Willowweemic and the Beaverkill and the Upper Delaware. And they'd say, I've never heard of that. I fly to Jackson Hole to go fly fishing. And so then they would go to Roscoe, and they would come back the next year like a kid in a candy shop and say, you just opened a whole new world to me. I just can't even believe what we just saw. What's next? What's next? Where do we go next? And so we started to, going to dozens of events, fairs, festivals. We started to just say, we are going to make a human connection. That's where I personally talk to I calculate about 10,000 travelers. And we are, I would say 95% of the time, we are talking to somebody who lives within 2 hours of the border and has no clue what our state has to offer. And so it's very inspiring. It's very enjoyable in that sense.
By the way, my name is Rick Remsnyder, and I'm talking to Josiah Brown, who is known as New York Sherpa. If you want to connect with Josiah and talk, if you're a business or hospitality and tourism business in particular, he can give you some great tips and possibly do a little business with Josiah. If you want to get in touch with him, you can reach him. His website is very simple to remember. It's the New York, spelled out New York, Sherpa.com, or you can go to Instagram at New York Sherpa. If anybody wants to call in, love to hear from you, 845-331-9255. What you said, Josiah, is true. Even though each county, and I did this for 15 years. We have our own travel guide. We're branding the county, and we're proud of what we do. And, I find it, when people come into the county, a travel guide is a great resource for seeing things and finding out all we have to do. But I've been out to travel shows, not as many as you, obviously, and I can't tell you, sitting in my booth or standing in my booth, how many times someone had asked, "Where is Ulster County?" And Ulster County, I thought that was in Ireland. So branding the county can be a very tricky business. So when we talk to people on the road, you're absolutely right about talking about experiences. I can't tell you how many times a light would go on about Ulster County if I mentioned Woodstock, or, I mentioned Mohonk Mountain House, destinations, or, we have the world's best rock climbing and things like Sullivan County has fly fishing. So that branding is a tricky proposition. Do you agree?
It is a tricky proposition, and it really comes down to an understanding of the end goal. For years, like let's use an example, Schuyler County. How much would you like to go with me to visit Schuyler County? And most people are going to give me a blank stare.
Exactly.
So Schuyler County says, here's the problem. We represent the whole county, but this incredible gorge called Watkins Glen, this incredible racetrack that hosts a NASCAR race called Watkins Glen, and this great little downtown with, shops and restaurants and wineries all around it called Watkins Glen, is one part of our county. But we are probably more magnetic if we rebrand from Schuyler County to Watkins Glen area. If we want to get 10 people through the door as Schuyler County and be fair to everyone in the county, or if we can become Watkins Glen area and get 1,000 people through the door, everybody does better. And that's really this is why I talk about, and I can probably riff on the tourism industry a little deeper in a minute, but this is why I talk about the tourism industry so in depth, is that there's nuances to how we promote versus how the local thinks. Like you mentioned print. I have never in my home county gone to a brochure rack and picked up a brochure about something to do in my home county. I've rarely even gone to a brochure rack and picked up information about my home county. So I could say print doesn't work, brochures don't work, any of that kind of stuff. But that would not understand the levers of the industry. So then I go to Florida with my family a couple of years ago, and I'm in a hotel, and we're planning on going to Legoland, Florida. And I walk into the lobby of the hotel, and in the lobby is a brochure rack, and I walk up to it, and I see this brochure that says, Tour the Tropicana Factory. And I was like, oh, an orange juice factory tour. I never knew that existed. Right next to it, I see a brochure for Gatorland. And I go, right, Gatorland. I completely forgot about Gatorland. Like, you'd heard about it, you'd seen the show with the Gator guy or whatever, but you had forgotten about it. And so next thing you know, my family's in Florida at Gatorland. And so this is the giant chasm between the local think and the tourism think. Things that you click into a tourism mode are completely different than a local. And yet a local knows they're in Ulster County. A local never touches the brochure rack. A local understands things differently. And so what the challenge of tourism promotion is to get the locals to embrace an industry norm and do what brings more people. Because nobody is going to argue that 10 people is not as good as 1,000 people, even if those 1,000 people have never heard the term Schuyler County.
Right. Well, it's a couple weeks ago, my son and I went to Cleveland to visit the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, see a few NBA games. I couldn't tell you what county Cleveland's in. I couldn't tell you what county the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is in, but obviously we know where they are. But the attractions drive the traffic, I believe. But Let's get into, we mentioned you're the chair of NISTIA, the New York State Tourism Industry Association. What does NISTIA actually do, and why is it important?
Well, so the New York State Tourism Industry Association, and we used those words very particularly. So if you go into a Chamber of Commerce breakfast, which I've been at thousands, and they ask everybody to stand up and introduce themselves, they might say, somebody stands up and says, well, I'm in the healthcare industry, and everybody nods in agreement. And the next person stands up and says, I'm in higher education, and everybody nods in agreement. The third person stands up and says, I'm in manufacturing, and everybody gets it. Then I stand up and I say, I'm in the tourism industry. Everybody's head turns about 15 degrees to the left, and then they look at each other. They're not exactly sure what I just said, the tourism industry. So they say, so you work in a hotel? And this is the mission of a tourism industry association, is to really watch over the tourism industry. And what does that mean? It means that in New York State in 2019, tourism was a $117 billion industry. It had gone from the sixth largest to the fifth largest to the fourth largest to the third largest industry. The third largest industry, employing just under 1 million people in New York State. These are staggering numbers for a crowd at a Chamber of Commerce breakfast to tilt their head and not really understand what I just said. And the reason is because it's nuanced. Now, I mean, frankly, if you say you're in manufacturing, you could be manufacturing Q-tips or vehicles. Like, there's a massive range of what manufacturing means, but people generally understand it. So what we're trying to do as an industry is to help people understand what it means. It's the entire visitor economy that we are upholding and watching over. So we saw this full face in 2020. We're talking, yes, you have a hotel, and you have a water park, and you have an attraction. Now you might get to smaller businesses like bed and breakfasts and coffee shops and restaurants. But all around that industry is a fabric of economy, because somebody is delivering, somebody has a job as a Cisco food rep to deliver food to all of these businesses. Somebody's delivering propane to all of those campgrounds. Somebody is designing these websites and running these social media. Somebody is running management companies. And there are people who are working as sales and banquet managers at hotels. There are people that are working to win sporting events and conferences. So you have from marketing people to sales people to service people to tech people, you have this full gamut. And by the time we got to 2019, you're talking $117 billion industry. And really in New York State, when we say tourism is the third largest industry, it's kind of nuanced, because really I think it's finance, or it's agriculture, finance, and tourism as I think the top three. North of the George Washington Bridge, we can drop finance off the list. So the rest of this massive state is really the visitor economy and agriculture. And agriculture and visitors are now way more blended than they used to, because farm brewery, farm to cidery, farm distillery, these are all considered agriculture. But you have a lot of the cheese farms you can visit now, dairy farms you can visit, a lot of U-pick farms, farms in the summer that are doing the corn mazes and pumpkin picking. So agriculture and tourism are very, very much linked. So you're talking in most of the state, as the visitor economy is the primary driver of the economy. You're talking most of these communities, it's closer to number one. And it's closer to number one, not if you count the hotel jobs, but if you count all of the professional services that are going into doing this. And so what happens is we get this really tricky balance where the locals don't necessarily want traffic in the summer, but that's the only thing that is bringing in sales tax, sustainability for small businesses, stores, boutiques, employment. It's bringing all of this economic value in. And so we see that, yes, tourists come, from Memorial Day to Labor Day primarily, but that's how your favorite restaurant stays open. That's how your kid is getting their first job. That's how the local businesses are supporting themselves. And that includes the company that's servicing all the social media accounts for a lot of these attractions. It's the people that are employed to keep the parks beautiful. So what, long-winded answer here, but what the New York State Tourism Industry Association is doing is we are supporting all of those businesses as an industry, giving them the research they need, the networking they need, the professional development that they need. We are giving them programs to help them save money, education. We are recognizing them as far as awards and best practices. We're kind of keeping this entire industry forefront and helping them, but then also making sure that we are advocating in Albany for an understanding of how powerful of a driver this is. Because when I say $117 billion industry, now you're talking $8 or $9 billion in taxes that's fueling. And if you look at the state budget, $8 or $9 billion is a massive. You're talking that the tourism industry alone can employ every police officer and firefighter in the entire state. That's how much revenue that we're generating, and that revenue is as important now as ever.
You hit on so many great points there. I'm glad you brought up the number of jobs that the tourism and hospitality industry has, and I can't tell you how many times I've knocked my head against a wall as a tourism director, fighting this myth that in the tourism industry they're all low-paying jobs. I think you kind of burst that bubble when you talk about all the different jobs and that are in the marketing and everything else that we have in tourism. Here's my question for you, and I agree with the premise also that those numbers, that 117 billion, probably low because we're not, you're not including all the agriculture in there. It's kind of hard to. Do you count a brewery, a cidery, a winery as in tourism and hospitality, or do you count it in farming? But let me ask you this question. With all those numbers and how our industry had, I'm going back to my past, I'm not in the industry anymore, but in tourism, why, with all the money that is generated, also on the local level, you cut taxes because of the money that's generated, the income for the normal taxpayer. I think in Ulster County it was almost $1,000 was saved through the revenue that was generated in sales tax, et cetera. Why does it seem to be the tourism industry has a hard time getting state, local support? It's like it's always a battle to get money for the industry. Why is that?
Well, it's multi-layered, but I think that there are a few main reasons.
Hey, Josiah, we only have a minute, so we're going to come back to that topic, but go ahead and start, and then we're going to have to take a quick break.
Yeah, well, let me give you my 1 minute thing of the other thing that you had said about jobs. U.S. Travel, which is our national association, reports that people who start in the hospitality industry make 25% more over the arc of their career than people who don't start in hospitality. So even those low-paying jobs that people start as the front desk clerk or start taking tickets at the front door, even those jobs are providing a massive economic benefit to those people because we're training America's workforce on how to be friendly, welcoming, inviting, and sales savvy. So even those low-paying jobs are doing an incredible thing for our economy. But I know you got a break. I guess we'll pick the other question up on the other half.
All right, very good. So we had a great half hour, Lawrence, with Josiah Brown. So we'll take a break, do some birthdays, and then we'll be on the other side with Josiah Brown.
Sounds good.
You're listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
Question: what will you find on all over-the-counter or OTC medicine packages to help you choose the right drug and use it safely? The answer: the drug facts label. This label lists the medicine's active ingredients and purpose, how much to take, and warnings you should know before using it. Remember, even OTC medicines you buy without a prescription can cause side effects you don't want. So follow the information listed on the drug facts label. For more information, visit fda.gov/drug facts label. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
Introducing the YMCA. Sure, you know the Y for a swim or a game of hoops, but we're more than that. We're a cause. When you take a jump shot at the Y, someone else is getting job training. Practice yoga as a team practices her leadership skills. We give people of all ages, incomes, and backgrounds a chance to learn, grow, and thrive. So while you might think of the Y as the place for lifting weights, we're also about lifting entire communities. That's the Y. We're so much more. Visit ymca.net/more.
At St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, we're fighting against childhood cancer every day. At the heart of this battle are our donors.
Most of us want to make some type of difference in the lives of others. St. Jude does miraculous work.
The fact that no one has to pay, it's a place where everyone is treated as an equal.
Everybody is welcome here. And it doesn't matter your religion or what part of the world you're from, all that is taken away. It just gives you some hope.
It's just a nice feeling to put your energy into something that really does genuinely make a difference in a child's life.
There's just no greater gift. If we have the ability to help, then we have a responsibility to help.
Finding cures, saving children. St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Find out how you can help at stjude.org.
Hi, this is Tony Marmo from Norman Staffing, and we've been bringing together employers and job seekers since 1980. If you're an employer and have job vacancies, let Norman Staffing help fill them with permanent or temporary workers. We screen, interview, and recommend the best candidates for your company. We make the employment process easier and faster for you. Please call Norman Staffing for your employment needs at 338-9111, 338-9111, or normanstaffing.com.
Hi, this is Winnie from the Rosendale Seniors, and I support Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
Rondout Savings Bank has a long history of serving local communities and maintaining a strong tradition of customer service excellence while providing each customer with the personal attention they deserve. Rondout Savings' approach to community banking puts you and the growth of your business in the front of everything they do. They're a different kind of bank and would like to tell you why, so please reach out to one of their expert business bankers for an appointment and let them show you what they can do for you. Rondout Savings Bank, always working for you and the community with branches in Kingston, West Hurley, and Hyde Park. Also online at rondoutbank.com. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.
All right, this is Rick Remsnyder back. We have Josiah Brown, New York Sherpa, on the other in a few minutes. Continue our great conversation.
When I think Sherpa, I think of like a goat herder. Like that's when I think Sherpa. Like,
well, we'll have
like
to
a guy
mention,
that lives in the mountains or whatever.
Yeah, he's not. Josiah's
right, well, let's
not.
do birthdays and we can get back to him.
Yeah. So anyway, it's Friday, May 21st, and we have. We want to wish a happy birthday to Ilse Fenwick from your friends at the Girls Night Out Book Club. And since Ilse's the only one we have, she's going to be today. She's going to be the birthday winner of the famous cow pie from Boyce Dairy Milk House and Kingston Community Radio. Then on Sunday, May 23rd, we have two birthdays. We have Ed Steedle from your friends and family, wife Marie, and we also want to wish a happy birthday to Helen Blanchand, hope I got that correct, from your friends at the Town of Ulster Senior Club. And the winner of the cow pie, courtesy of Boyce Dairy Milk House and Kingston Community Radio, is we're going to stir up the hopper because we have
there's
two.
a bell right next to you if you feel like ringing
Ed
it.
Steedle. And
Happy
also,
birthday.
we have, I want to wish a happy birthday today, right, to Jean Maxwell, Lawrence's mom.
That's right, the owner of Kingston Community Radio.
Yeah. Age
unknown.
Yes, age unknown.
Happy birthday, Mom.
Yeah, have a great one, Jean. So.
Yes, so hopefully I won't get yelled at for announcing her birthday on the radio. It's too bad she couldn't give herself the cowboy, then she could have gave it to me. While we were at break, besides having Josiah on the air, Lou Kirshner, former KCR host, is on the line as well. I think he has a question for him. Good morning, Lou.
Hi, how are you? And happy birthday, Gene.
A little bit, yeah.
adorable.
Hey, Lou, Rick Remsnyder, how you doing?
Not too bad. We're sitting out here in the good old Kingston. We came up for a few days, heading back down to Florida for God knows how long.
So you're back in the county now?
We just came up for a couple of days. We had to take care of some of our...
What are you going to do?
He probably came up to sell his house because he's getting so much money for it.
Yeah, right. From your mouth to God's ear. What a headache. I've had nothing but nosebleeds all week.
So how you feel?
What's going on, everyone?
It's a beautiful day in Ulster County. We've had some great weather. It's in the, I think it's going to be a fairly reasonable 81 today, so everything's going well.
I'm keeping my tan from down south. See that? I brought the weather with me. Just checking up and make sure everybody's well. I really want to take a ride over and take a look at the studio because I haven't seen it. But trying to call since 7:15, nobody answered the phone here. So I figure I better call and say hello. And
Great.
wish everybody luck and have a great summer. And I was just wondering what time Lawrence is going to be there so I could stop over and see my old treasurer's office.
I'm leaving at 9:05, Lou, so you can come up the elevator and come all the way to the back, follow the KCR signs.
The elevator, huh?
Yeah, I leave early on Fridays because I work, 10-hour days Monday through Thursday, so.
That's good. That's good.
Well, I'm still relatively young.
You're not kidding.
Yeah. If I knew, I didn't know that Fran wasn't going to be here, I could have had you come in and co-host with Rick.
Yeah, I'd love to have you do that
Matter of fact,
sometime.
why don't you come down right now and help and finish out the rest of the show, and then that way I can leave on time. What do you do?
No, I can't finish it.
Well, you had your shot. All right, cool. Yeah, I'm leaving around 9:05, so try to get here at 8:45. Is that good, Lou?
I'm going to try again. Don't be mad if I don't get there.
All right. Well, are you going to be here Monday?
8:30 appointment.
Are you still going to be here Monday, or are you leaving?
Yeah, but huh?
Are you still going to be here Monday, or are you leaving?
I'm going to maybe take a fast ride over now.
Okay, good.
Just to see what it looks like.
All right, good. We'll see you then.
All right, kids.
All right,
Stay
take
well.
care.
Bye.
Take care, Lou. All right, we're back to Josiah. So how you doing? You still with us, Josiah?
I am still here, buddy.
All right, so we got rid of... By the way, have you ever been to Boyce Dairy Milk House in Kingston?
It doesn't ring a bell. No.
But I know that you like the sushi place on Albany Avenue, so all-you-could-eat sushi. So Josiah knows Ulster County very well. I'm only teasing him about the milk house because, you know what, I haven't been there either. My bad. So, okay, on the other side, we were talking about you took care of the aspect of the bursting the bubble on the low-paying jobs. I guess the other question I had was why... in light of the overwhelming amount of money that tourism and hospitality industry generates for the state, why is it such a tough time to get the state and local leaders to open the purse book sometimes?
Well, it's a multi-layered issue, and I think I'll peel back the onion one layer at a time. One of the things is that one of the reasons is that if you were asked to hire the head of welding for the Department of Transportation, you'd say, "I know nothing about welding. I better go to the place where that expertise is known, and I better hire somebody who is a professional in that." and because it's welding, right? I don't know about welding. So the immediate reaction is find a professional and trust what they say. Make sure that they're well-ranked, well-accredited, and trust what they say. In tourism, we've all stayed at a hotel, and we've all picked up a travel guide. So there is this sense like we know what we're talking about. Well, let me tell you, in tourism, there's about 6 to 7 buckets of tourism promotion. Only one is the consumer, right? The people that drive up 87 and get off at New Paltz, Kingston, Saugerties, that's only one facet of our industry. You have people out there working to win conferences, meetings, bus trips, senior bus trips, destination weddings, international visitors. You have all of these different segments, sports tourism, sports events. So, for instance, a well-accredited professional tourism person will go and gather product, get wholesale pricing at 6 or 7 different locations, fly across the pond to an event in London, pitch those packaged products to tour operators in that country 18 months ahead of time. That tour operator will go and sell it to thousands of tourists and book their flights, fly them across the pond. 18 to 24 months later, this huge group from Germany arrives in the destination. This huge group from Australia arrives in the destination. 100, Chinese travelers on 3 different buses pull into a location, get off and get lunch, buy a souvenir, take the tour. How did that all happen? We always look at tourism as this organic thing of people want to come. We should have a travel guide for them to visit. Maybe we should have a website for them to get information. But predominantly, they're coming anyway. And that's not the case. Most of tourism's investment is fought for because everybody is promoting everywhere right now. So we're actually constantly looking for not only a piece of the consumer pie, but we're looking for the piece of about 7 other pies that drive. Hotels don't survive on just the consumer because 6 months a year they wouldn't have consumer. They survive. The conferences roll in, the meetings roll in, the bus tours roll in, and all of that is one business. So I think some of it is because there is not an assumption that these are highly skilled professionals who understand something we don't, the general public doesn't, and that they're accredited and that they need to be listened to. And that major misunderstanding starts because we've all stayed at a hotel. So we think we understand what the industry is. That's the first layer. The second layer is really we have to get better at telling our story. We have for years in destinations said, if it wasn't for the tourism industry, every household would pay $700 or $800 or $900 more a year in taxes. And to a lot of people, they go, for no traffic all summer, I would just pay another $900. But what we discovered during the pandemic is something the tourism industry has been saying for years, is that is not the case. That is not the math. Because, yes, the tourism sales tax, the extra incremental sales tax that is generated by just visitors, defined as somebody from more than 50 miles away, is reducing your household taxes by $900. That is true. But what we found during the pandemic is that when tourism goes away, half of the people suddenly don't have a job. This person is laid off. That person is laid off. This business just closed. And all of a sudden, there is a massive impact on everyone's life, both employment, funding, police, firefighter, roads. Those potholes are getting filled oftentimes with tax dollar money that was generated out of tourism. So it is true that it reduces the tax levy, but the impact is far greater if the industry went away. So I always say, for you to have the tax reduction from a visitor spending money and getting sales tax might be $900. But for an economy to function completely without tourism, everybody might have to spend another $5,000 or $10,000 to get that quality of life back up to the level. And that's what it is. The tourism is never the goal of a tourism department. It's the means to an end. Tourism brings local quality of life in small business success, in restaurant success, in young people getting their first job, in gainful employment of professionals, in quality of life, in beautification of open spaces. All of those things are brought by the visitor. So the visitors are kind of a means to an end. And our favorite restaurant is full in July, but we get that favorite restaurant the whole year because of it. So I'd say that's the second layer. The first layer is really just everybody thinks they know what they're talking about. The second layer is we don't tell our story as well as we should all of the time, and that's what the New York State Tourism Industry Association is very much forward on, is helping tell those stories in Albany, particularly. And then the third layer is that we, in county government, in state government, we're always spending money. We're looking for where, we can best use our money, because most of the time when a county is spending its money, it's spending it for the community good, the social good, but there is no return on investment from a dollar standpoint. There's just a return on investment from a society or quality of life standpoint. What's the dollar return on investment on repaving a road? Well, it needs to be done. It probably helps traffic flow, but really we're doing it because that's how we spend that money. In tourism, it's this like little island in the sky of county or state funding, because not only are we spending it for the community good and for the societal good of sustaining these communities, but it brings back a 3 or 4 or 5 time return on investment. So in 2009, the state had not funded any tourism marketing, and the tourism industry in New York State was about a $60 billion industry. So in 2010, New York State ramps up their budget. In 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19, they kept increasing the investment in tourism. What happened is it went from a $60 billion industry, as I mentioned before, to a $117 billion industry. And Governor Cuomo several times at the microphone said, every time we invest more, we get more. I'm not stopping this until the numbers start to fall off. Like, who would not spend $1 million to get 10 back? And so we went from a $60 billion economy to a $117 billion economy with an ever-increasing ramping up. And at the end of the day, in 2019, the state was spending around $60 million in tourism, all told. That's all of the grant programs, all of the funding programs, the arts, the parks, all told it was about $60 million. So you're spending $60 million to increase the return by $60 billion. And that's this third layer that everybody has to understand, is it's not normal in county or state government to have an actual ROI in an investment. We don't think that way. But tourism is this actual cash return on investment and societal return on investment, and that's the story that we have to tell better at the local level. It doesn't seem like that it should be the county's job to go out and, a lot of people say government should work like a business. Well, there's some areas that government should work like a business, and then there's other areas that it just shouldn't. There's things that it does that nobody else is really going to do the way that they do, if you think about some of the areas that is funded out of county government. But if you have an area that is functioning like a business, in the sense I put in $1, I get 7 back, we should do more of that. And so it comes down to storytelling and telling our value.
Great answer. Obviously, you're preaching to the choir here. And I've always said this, even though he's not the most popular person in the world right now, Governor Cuomo has understood the benefits of tourism and putting money into it. And so I'll give him credit for that. Certainly deserves it. Let's go on to a few more fun things. Now that we've both you and I can get off our soapbox about spending. You got to spend money to make money, to boil it down. What's the biggest news in tourism this year? I know that Legoland is going to be generating a lot of interest in Orange County. It's not that far from here in Ulster County. When's it opening? And I know you've been down there, Josiah. By the way, this is Josiah Brown, New York Sherpa. Anybody wants to call in, 331-9255. What's happening at Legoland, and what's it look like, Josiah?
So the biggest news this year, biggest news probably for several years will be Legoland. And just to take a step back, talking about the misunderstanding of the tourism industry. You know, this is a resort for 2 to 12-year-olds that is going to bring joy to all these families' lives and unbelievable revenue to its community. And the uphill battle that they had to face to get that place approved was like mind-blowing to most of us. It actually was almost a little scary to say if we can't build a resort for 2 to 12-year-olds that has no other mission than to bring happiness into the world, what are we looking at here? But it did get approved through a lot of dedicated hard work in that community.
I got to give the county executive there, Steve Newhouse, a shout out because Steve seemed to be behind that project from day one. Am I right on that?
He was behind it from day one. Really, there was a lot of people behind it from day one, and you know there is a little bit of a world that we're heading into that. And I actually heard this phrase for the first time a couple decades ago in Ulster County, but NIMBYs, not in my backyard, those are reasonable people who have reasonable questions and issues, and they often push developers to give more, do more, and do more good. So I don't mind NIMBYs. I don't mind not in my backyarders. They have valid questions that need to be answered. It's the era of bananas that we are facing that is a problem. And a banana is building anything anywhere is absolutely not acceptable. And so you have 500 acres. It's going to be something. You get to script what it is. It has a $90,000 tax bill as empty land. It's not going to be open space. The companies that own that and are paying that $90,000 tax bill every year, it's going to be something. Do you want it to be an asphalt plant? Do you want it to be a quarry? Do you want it to be a resort for 2 to 12-year-olds? And so that's what got approved. And thank goodness it did, because this will not just be an attraction. This will be an economic shifter. You know, no one, including Merlin, which owns Legoland. Merlin is the second largest developer of these attractions, only second to Disney. And no one, including Disney, has ever pinned a resort within 60 miles of New York City. And so they were the first to do it, and man, did they have to move a mountain to do it. So now what you're going to have happen is a whole economy is going to spring up around family destinations. Think about what happened around Disney in Florida on a more micro scale. I just saw 2 days ago that somebody is proposing building a dino park, or proximate to Legoland. Somebody is now proposing a Great Wolf Lodge. What you're going to see all around about an hour's circle from Legoland, which includes Ulster County, Dutchess County, Rockland County, you're going to see people start to build experiences that are family-oriented so that this becomes really a hub. So in the next decade, the amount of economic development. So anyway, that's the nerdy stuff. On the consumer side, I was able to, I was in, I think it was last Saturday, there was a group of people that went in to see it for the first time, and I was just blown away at the quality that they had built there. It is an entire environment. I have an 8-year-old and a 3-year-old. We were invited to go as a family to see it for the first time, for kind of like a first preview. And we were just absolutely blown away. And it wasn't done. So what they have right now, they've just announced that May 29th begins previews, and the previews will mostly be open, from what I understand, to the people who had pre-bought tickets and to season pass holders. Because, of course, they were planning to be open July 4th of 2020, and they got knocked off of that schedule by the pandemic. But also, what people have to remember, there are 7 different experiences in Legoland. It's like, you have Miniland and Lego City and Ninjago. All the little kids who follow Lego would understand this. But of those 7 build-outs, these are basically 7 areas of the park they have to build. Well, it wasn't time that was their issue. It was actually supply chain. So you think, well, they're supposed to open July 4th of 2020. Now we're in May of 2021. How are they not done? Well, when the pandemic hit, we didn't just lose workers for a couple of months. We lost steel. We lost, things being shipped in from vendors. Well, the entire supply chain broke. So they have had to, again, climb a mountain to get these finished. And so they are finishing these 7 parts of the park as fast as they can. We were able to tour about 4 parts of the park. And it went beyond every expectation that I had. Absolutely stunning what they have done there.
It sounds fantastic. So, if what else is going on this summer that I know that we have about 4 or 5 minutes left, Josiah. What are some of the tips? I guess one other question I should ask you before that is, when are we going to be back to some sort of normalcy as far as people being comfortable to visit places like Legoland? Are we there yet? Is it it's going to take till we get herd immunity? What is your feeling on that?
Well, the national data, and I watch a lot of the national research that's coming out. There's a lot of different companies that provide national research. Consumer sentiment for travel is extremely high. We have a desire to travel, to see experiences. People are trying, have gone through so much anxiety, so much sadness, so much stress, and they know the solution to those things are to get out and to see places. The propensity to travel is extraordinarily high, and I think consumers saw last summer that places really had done the things to be safe. And so we are in for a absolute, snap back to travel. We are, as an industry, asking people to choose to travel in New York this year for at least one of your trips. We have a campaign called Roam the Empire State, and Roam meaning, you can go from the Adirondacks to the Hudson Valley to the Catskills to the Finger Lakes. You can kind of meander your way around the different 11 regions of New York, and they're all so unique. The Finger Lakes have over 200 wineries. The Hudson Valley was named one of the top 20 places to see in your lifetime. Even local residents don't understand the whole breadth of what the region has to offer as far as attractions. So we're encouraging people to plan at least one trip in New York this year, because it's going to be vital for these communities. You think of Cooperstown, that for the second year now has not had a Hall of Fame induction. Go to Cooperstown, see the museum, see an unbelievable community, have awesome food, recreate. They have a whole beer trail up there, a whole craft beverage trail. Plan a trip to New York this year so that you see it. And I think that if we do that, we can help put these workers back to work. We can help the small businesses. We can help these communities kind of rise out of it. But that's going to be the only gap this year. The only gap this year is going to be major events that were canceled in the regions. As far as visitors into the outdoors, the parks, the campgrounds, a lot of your outdoor experiences are almost already booked this year. If you want to go camping, you better have your reservations in soon, because pretty much everything has been booked.
Well, that's good.
That's what the landscape is going to look like this year. A lot of outdoor recreation, a lot of community roaming, and the data is showing that people are ready to travel.
Josiah, you've been a great guest. Could go on for another hour. Unfortunately, our time is gone. I know if people want to get in touch with Josiah, and I know he does speaking, he does destination marketing. Just briefly, if they want to get in touch with Josiah Brown, how do they do it?
TheNewYorkSherpa.com is my website. NewYorksBestExperiences.com, all spelled out. NewYorksBestExperiences.com is our public-facing website. The best way to reach me is on Instagram, at New York Sherpa, all spelled out, New York Sherpa on Instagram. That's where I connect with people, answer questions, and constantly make recommendations.
All right. Thanks, Josiah. Have a great weekend. Look, we'll have you back on in the fall, and don't be a stranger in Ulster County.
Rick, it's always great to talk to you, and I love Ulster County, love the Kingston area, so thanks so much for having me on.
Okay, thank you. All right, Lawrence, we're going to go on a little break here, and then we're going to be back with Brian Bonesteel of Green Acres.
listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
Many medicines used to treat colds and flu contain acetaminophen, a pain reliever and fever reducer found in hundreds of over-the-counter and prescription medicines. But taking too much or more than one medication containing acetaminophen per day can damage your liver. So always read the label and don't take acetaminophen if you drink 3 or more alcoholic drinks every day. To learn more, visit fda.gov/OTC pain info. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Food and Drug Administration.
There was this one time I went snorkeling in the Caribbean when I was a kid. It really just blew my mind. We saw the most beautiful corals. I remember thinking they were waving at us as they moved with the ocean. And then there were all these amazing fish. I'll never forget it. It completely changed the way I look at the ocean.
Most of us have a memory of being in nature we'll never forget. Let's protect the world's natural places so more memories can be made for generations to come. Visit worldwildlife.org.
Have you ever experienced a wish come true? For a child battling a critical illness, a wish come true can be a turning point. One song, one dance, one game, one adventure, one moment changes everything. Make-A-Wish needs your support to grant the wish of every eligible child. Visit wish.org now to help grant more life-changing wishes. Together, we can transform lives, one wish at a time.
Hi, this is Jim Quigley, Supervisor of the Town of Ulster, and I support Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
This portion of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Ulster Savings Bank. Visit their newest branch, conveniently located at the Ulster Commons Plaza in Lake Katrine. Experience the difference that local community banking offers with the convenience of another great location, easy access, plenty of parking, and a 24-hour ATM. Ulster Savings Bank, invested in community, invested in you. Member FDIC.
All right, it's Rick Remsnyder back. We're going to talk a little golf now with one of my most industrious friends, Brian Bonesteel. He's built Ascot Park driving range about 30 years ago. He's in his 4th year of owning Green Acres Golf Course. He also owns Bonesteel Auto and Truck. And this man has accomplished more than in 52 years than I can think of a lot of people, Lawrence. But I'm happy to be joined by Brian Bonesteel. How you doing this morning, Brian?
Oh, I'm doing great, Rick. Thanks for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you coming on because I know with this beautiful weather, I'm sure you were packed yesterday and you're looking forward to a fantastic weekend, correct?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Once the weather broke, we had a little bit of a spring that was a little cold and didn't want to, give into some warmer temperatures. But once that hit, people have been out playing golf, and it's good to see.
I got to say that I've been a resident of Ulster County probably 40 years, and I've even when I was working, it was great to be able to fly out of my office in downtown Kingston, get over to Green Acres in about 10 minutes, and play a quick 9. But I'll tell you, the improvements that I know you were part owner starting 7 years ago, and you're now the full owner. The improvements that you've made in this golf course over that time frame is fabulous. Talk about, what your vision was and what your vision is going forward.
Well, when I came over here, because I own the driving range, I became partners with Darryl, and his business is down a little bit. But because I own the driving range, I knew golf was still strong. Even though golf was in a fragile point, I knew there was plenty of people that were playing golf still because they were practicing at my facility, and I knew the course just needed a little bit of love and a little bit of a new thinking, and I ended up coming over here, and then I ended up buying them out and starting to bring some of them ideas that I have, to light, and I have plenty more that I'm going to bring to the customer. That's for sure.
I'm sure that you were probably disappointed when Rick Clausey retired and moved out to North Myrtle Beach, because he had to be one of your biggest customers over at Ascot Park through the years, the former Kingston High football coach, wasn't he?
Absolutely. He was a daily figure there, no question about it. So, revenue certainly went down when he left.
Well, let's talk about Green Acres. I know that, like you said, golf was in a challenging position 3-4 years ago. But talk about, a silver lining, if there is one, from the pandemic, about how the golf has done over the year over last year and then again this year. How much of a benefit, or increase in business have you seen over the last, let's say, 12, 14 months?
Oh, without question. I mean, basically, this is the biggest boom in golf since Tiger Woods hit the scene. Which was, the biggest boom in golf that they had ever seen. So the pandemic, unfortunately, hurt a lot of business, but golf was a business that benefited, and there was a bunch of other businesses that benefited. And basically, I don't know, kind of slowed life down for people. They got outside. They were able to get outside, and I think we're going to retain a good portion of the people that were either away from the game or new to the game. So that's encouraging to see.
I want to encourage people that are looking to play golf in a reasonable rate and, a reasonable pace to try out, if they haven't already, Green Acres, because I will say this, though. Some people now, before you arrived, and maybe the first couple years you were there, I heard a nickname, Easy Acres. It is no longer the wide open golf course where you can just grip it and rip it, and you don't have to worry about the rough. You don't have to worry about water. You've actually made it a little more challenging. Talk about that a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's listen. A golf course has got to make you make decisions. At least the golf course that I'm going to be a part of. Let me say that to you. This was pretty much a grip it and rip it type of course, but when I came over here, my vision was that the course needed to be a little bit more challenging to get that customer back. Everybody starts at Green Acres. Everybody started at Green Acres, but they leave because it becomes a grip it and rip it type of course, and actually you can create bad habits. So I knew that we needed to make it more of a golf course, so we put rough in between the fairways. We really concentrated on the conditions themselves, the grass, the turf itself. We made, invested a lot of time and money into the greens. We invested a lot of time and money into the fairways. We basically have a first cut. As far as conditions go, I don't get to travel around a lot, but I'd like to think that we're as good as anybody out there. And one nice thing that is really, really nice about this course is it's very, very walkable. So we get a lot of seniors that actually, interestingly, more seniors walk than younger people. All the younger people take carts. So, it's a great form of exercise as you get older, and it's a great sport to play.
Since I've retired last September, I got to play a lot of golf last fall that I hadn't. And, of course, starting this spring, and I have to say that Green Acres was one of the first places I teed it up this spring. And I'll tell you, the condition of your fairways and the greens, you don't take a back seat to any golf courses I played around here. So kudos to you and your staff. Talk a little bit about how many guys you have, your staff, and who does a lot of the work for you out there. And I know Brian is a hands-on owner. He's out there in the cart. If I get there at 9 o'clock, I'm sure I'm going to see him and his dog out there working the course. So talk about your staff a little bit and how hard you guys work to maintain the golf course.
Well, you bring up a great point, because in order to be good, you have to have great people around you as well. So I have a great superintendent, Eddie Van Buren. He's actually been at the course 25 plus years, and when I took over, I said, Ed, I think we can do something special here if you're willing to stay, and he bought into that, and he works as hard or harder than me every day to try to make each day better, which is tough to do, tough to find. Because a lot of what we do every day is a repetitive thing, but we push ourselves to do everything that we did yesterday better, and he has that same mindset that I have on that. So that's been a blessing. So he's been a great help. My ex-partner, Darryl Vigna, is actually back working for me. which is great because he's got 25 or 30 years of course knowledge. We have a lot of old irrigation here, and we're putting new stuff in. So he's very valuable in that respect, as well as knowing what's going on with the turf as well. I mean, he's been here 25 years, so he may see something that Ed or I might have missed, and say, hey, you might have to do something with that. And then I have another great kid. His name is Chris. He mows a lot of rough. He works both places at the driving range and over here. I have a great family support. All my kids are involved. Like you said, even my dog. My dog's here every morning with me, which is a great way to spend every morning. My dad was very instrumental in helping me build both the golf driving range and over here. And I have a cousin that's involved in the business. So very, very blessed to have a good staff and good people around me.
You have your trucking business, and you've done a lot of work there, and you did you built Ascot Park. Talk about what got you started in the golf business. What appealed to you? Was it the idea of being outdoors, or obviously you play golf? So just talk about that a little bit.
Actually, like I said, I've just always was interested in the golf business. My grandmother and my aunt actually lived on Orlando Street, which is very close to the barn. I walked on this course as a young man, probably 10, 11 years old. Started on number 3, paid the shack, and finished on number 2. So, I just spent a lot of time, here on the golf course as a young kid. Kept me out of trouble. Really liked the sport. I like competing. Basically, you're playing a golf course, you're playing yourself. So just always liked golf. I became, I was a motorcycle racer. I became a professional motorcycle racer as a young man, and I spent a lot of time, on the road in different states and in between races. Me and my friends would play golf. So it's just something that's always attracted me. And when I ended up retiring from motorcycle racing as a professional, the piece of property that Ascot is actually located on, a for sale sign came on it. So I'm like, you know what? I think I'm going to build a driving range. So I took a chance, and the rest is history. It all kind of just fell into place. I've been very blessed.
If people want to work on their games, I encourage them to go out to Ascot Park. It's a great facility, a lot of room. They have a nice short game area there where you can work on your chipping and bunker play and putting. And after the way I played yesterday, you'll be seeing me this weekend, Brian. But let me ask you this. I love some of the changes that you've made. You've added some tees, added some water. Let's talk about a couple of them, the bigger ones. Number 2, you lengthened the hole, I don't know how many yards you can tell me, and you brought in water there and on the right and a big fairway bunker on the left to make this a more challenging hole.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that was, again, this is just flat like a regular town park. So, but it had great areas, and really the first areas that I addressed with ponds on number 2, between 2 and 3 and 6 and 7, were actually areas that always retained water. And so if we got a heavy rain or an inch or two, there was already water there. So I said, well, if you can't beat them, join them. Let's get this water to be in a pond. Why fight it? And it kills the grass and all that stuff. So that was some pretty easy choices, and worked out really well. It dried the golf course up. It shaped the holes beautifully, and we were excited to do that. And then I just did the same thing on number 9. That was always a wet area for me, so I just put a new pond in December on number 9. And every little thing like that becomes very eye appealing for the customer who turns TV on and sees bunkers and sees water and sees well manicured fairways. I mean, basically that's the product that we're trying to put out there.
You've done a real good job on number 7. I wrote an article a couple years ago for the Catskill Mountain Region Guide, and I actually made it one of the top 18 holes in Ulster County. That par 3 now, with the used to be kind of just a nondescript hit it up the hill par 3, but now you have a pond there, the sloping green. It kind of reminds me of holes that I've even seen on the PGA Tour. I don't know what it is from the back tee. I know there's a tree there that says 190. Talk about that hole and how challenging it is. Do you think that's your number one challenge, toughest hole, or is there another one?
I think really 7 and 8 are probably the two toughest holes on the course. Number 7, as you said, is it's 190 on the tree. So basically, the tees are going to play about 185, 184, somewhere in there. But what really changed that hole as well is I took the trees out behind number 6 green. So we get a tremendous amount of airflow, from 6 green towards 7 green, or the reverse, 7 towards 6. So that club selection on a windy day, I mean, it's everything. And that hole is a one club hole. If you don't have the right club, you're on the hill or you're in the water. So you're either going to be short or you're going to be long. And obviously you can't play it under the water. So your best bet is to be a little long. You're going to chip it down. You're really playing for bogey at that point. But then number 8 I lengthened out. And that's the reason I actually built that green down on number 7 and took it off the hill, was so I could get that rear tee box position for number 8, which plays 400 yards. That really chokes down right around the 100-yard mark going around the corner. And then the green, the green is a tough green sloping away from you. So to get a par there, you basically, in my mind, you made a birdie, because that is a tough hole. That will change. That hole is definitely that's going to become the ninth hole, and that green will actually be built out into 9 fairway in the future, which I'll make it a par 5, and that'll be a great par 5. Trust me, I'll put a little water. I take that pond that I took on 9 and wrap that in front of that hole. So there's so many things. I wish I could get them done with the snap of the finger, but the more we do, the more we got to take care of. So it's been a little slower process than I anticipated, but I'm having the time of my life, doing it and creating it and meeting the people. It's been a great experience.
This is Brian Bonesteel, the owner of Green Acres Golf Course off Harwich Street. If anybody doesn't know where it is, you just look for the McDonald's, right? And depending on which direction you're coming on Albany Avenue, right?
Yeah, correct. I mean, right between Harwich is located between Dunkin' Donuts and McDonald's, so pretty much everybody knows them 2 stores. So you turn down the road between them, go all the way to the end, you're going to come right in the driveway.
Yeah, and I love always, even before you owned Green Acres, one of the things that always appealed to me was when you went in that entrance and you went down the tree-lined entrance there. You went right from a residential area right into this peaceful little drive down the to the pro shop, or your it's not a pro shop, I guess we're going to call it yet, but
we call it the shack or the shed. But I agree. It's really truly amazing to come through. Basically, again, you're turning by McDonald's and Dunkin' Donuts, 2 commercial businesses, and within a mile down the street, after going through a neighborhood, you come down here and you think you're in the middle of nowhere. Absolutely beautiful, and like I said, I'm blessed to be here every day, and to call this my job. My office is the best office there is. Trust me.
Well, that's a great way to put it, Brian. You know what I like you've done is you've every year that it seems like you're working on something new. So it's not like, I'm going to wait. I'm going to close a golf course and we're going to do a massive renovation, but every year you seem to put some new things in. What is next for Green Acres? I've heard you have some ideas of maybe some bunkers coming up in the future.
That's correct. That's absolutely going to be the next move. I have the tees to finish, the new tee boxes to finish on 1, and then I have to finish the pond that I built on 9, which hopefully I should wrap up in the next few weeks. I run the irrigation over the 1. Just got to put some heads in and stuff, so we can get them going by the fall. So once I clean them up, you're going to see several bunkers being built here, which I'm really, really excited to get started on. But I can't have 20 things tore apart and nothing finished. So that's again, like I said, it's going a little slower than I'd like to see it. But like you said, I couldn't close the golf course from a financial perspective. I couldn't close it and do a total renovation, and I've thought about that, and I really think that wears off. When you go and you close something and you build it and it's all changed, and some people then receive it well and some don't receive it well. So my, by doing what I'm doing now and these slow changes, and people can come down, like you said, you get excited each year. Oh, what did he do? What's he doing this year? I don't know. I thought that approach actually is going to work in my favor. So, by default, really. So, pretty excited to be bringing everybody new stuff every year and every month, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. I think that was the right approach. In the future, and we're certainly not putting any time frame on this for you, but is the plan eventually to start the golf course over at Ascot Park and have more of a permanent building there and more parking where people start the golf experience over there? Is that the grand plan?
That is absolutely the grand plan. The grand plan will be this road that comes into Green Acres will also connect. So you'll be able to drive in the current entrance and drive over through the golf course along what is 9 now, along the tree line, and then come over into Ascot. And Ascot is also accessible through Esopus Avenue. That's where we'll build, some type of little clubhouse. The driving range and the golf course will then be all tied in together. So, if we're backed up on the tee, and eventually I'm sure we'll end up with tee times without question. That's definitely the grand plan. That's what I'm excited to get to. But there's a lot of things that I'm going to be doing prior to that. That move doesn't have to happen right away. That's more of 5 years down the road, 6 years down the road. I have a lot of things that I need to do to the golf course, that I want to do to the golf course before I make that turn.
Sure. Well, I'm excited every day to go over there and see all the different changes. And, not everybody may like this, but I think what you've done with the definition of you have, a fairway, obviously, a great definition, the first cut, and you do have some rough. So I think the premium now on some of the fairways is you better make sure that you hit the fairway. What has been the overall reaction from some of your regulars when over the last year or so they see a little more rough on some of the holes?
Well, I can tell you they don't like it. But that's a temporary. That's not going to stay permanent in the golf course. It's just an easier way. Eventually, I'll dig them out and I'll mound them, very similar to how I did the mounding, and create some grass bunkers and shape the fairways. By spilling the mounds over into the first cut or rough area, so we can do some shaping. I'm just not there yet. So this is the quickest way for me to create. So we have some knee-high fescue that's growing. Now, the interesting thing is, and I tell people, listen, you're going to go in there, you're not going to find your ball, but you're going to find two. As soon as you find two, you might as well get out because you're ahead of the game. That's basically my rule of thumb. But again, most of the older clientele hit the ball straight. It's the younger people that are in there mostly. And listen, everybody will stray from here, now and then. Matter of fact, Brian Smith was down here playing not too long ago, and he hit it in the rough. He still made birdie. So, he was smart. He took a wedge, hit it out, hit his third shot to like 4 feet and made birdie. So, it's still doable, but for now, that's the easiest way for me to protect the golf course and make it more challenging. And, again, everybody's going to have mixed feelings on it, but I think it enhances the golf course.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Talk about if people are interested in, you can always drive down to Green Acres. They have a very welcoming staff there. What's the woman's name that's down there all the time? She's really great.
That's my cousin Terry.
Yeah, Terry's there. She's fantastic.
Thank you.
But if people are looking for more information, is it the best way to go on the Green Acres Facebook page?
Yes, absolutely. We don't have. I'm actually running electric and everything to that building, so eventually I can move my phone up there. But right now my phone is in my equipment shed, and that I'm rarely ever in my equipment shed except when I'm adjusting a mower or something like that. We're out on the golf course. So really it's just an informational recording. So I also have a Facebook page for Green Acres on Facebook, so if you have a question, you can answer it there. But really the best thing to do is you come down here, you see Terry, she can answer any question you have. So
Right. What are your rates now, Brian, for people that are looking to come down and play?
Okay, so weekdays for a senior is $15. For a non-senior is $18. Weekends it's $20 for everybody. Juniors are also $15, and they're the only discount that we give on the weekend as well. So if you're a junior, 14 years or younger, you can have the $15 $15 greens fees on the weekend. Riding, we have seniors 2 and a quarter is $22 during the week. Regular person is $26 for 2 and a quart, and the weekends is $28 for everybody. So
I think that's a real good rate for the experience there, and you're not going to find any better here in Ulster County. Before I forget, I know you have a couple sons that are playing sports. Talk about them a little bit.
Oh, yeah, I have a son that's actually finishing up. He's a returning senior down in Salisbury, Maryland. They're actually playing for their coast-to-coast championship this weekend. So hopefully they win that, and they'll move on to a regional and then maybe to the College World Series. And I have my youngest son, Jake. Jacob is playing high school ball, and he's enjoying his time on the high school team, and they're doing pretty well. So, yeah, it's always fun to go watch them both play baseball.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect anything better any different, I should say, than with Mike Grapuso coaching the Kingston High Tigers. He does a great job with the baseball team. So good luck to both your sons.
Thank you.
I want to have you back on when we have a little more time. We'll come back in late in the fall or early in the fall and talk about your motorcycle racing. But
we don't need to do that. That was a lifetime ago.
Okay.
We'll talk about the golf course and the sand traps that I put in and he got stuck in. How about we do that?
Whatever you want. That's fine with me. One thing I wanted to ask you, I'm so glad that you guys are doing well. Do you think in a kind of a strange way that you might have benefited from? We know you benefited from the pandemic because people go out and play to get in fresh air, and you guys do a great job with the safety protocols. But the unfortunate loss of some of our golf courses here in Ulster County.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, and that's sad to see because I'd rather be in a more competitive market. I think it drives everybody to be better, and it's we've definitely lost some golf courses or some golf courses that went by the wayside as well. But there's a couple that are on their way to recovery, and I wish them the best. I know Stone Dock has got a new owner, and the previous owner kind of let that go, and I think the new guys in there are really trying really hard. So I wish him the best. I've heard whispers of the Lazy Swan possibly resurfacing. That's a great venue. That's a great golf course. It's probably got my favorite outside seating / bar area that I've visited on a golf course. So, hopefully that'll get back going again. But without question, I benefited from a financial standpoint because, obviously they had less choices. But I think if everybody does their best, then I think we all do fine anyway. So
I agree with you 100%. When people build hotels in the area, more build, and it's that's a great way to look at it, the competitive balance. So.
Yes, absolutely. Like you say, I mean, think about Kingston with the hotel situation years ago. Well, we have 2, 3 now. There's several. And by the way, try to get a room in Kingston in the summer. You can't get one.
You're absolutely right.
It's amazing, right?
No, 100%. Brian, I appreciate it. I know you're busy. I appreciate you, particularly on a Friday morning, taking a half hour. Have a great weekend. I hope the weather stays just like this, and they'll be. What I'll say to people, if they wanted to get to Green Acres, the earlier the better. So
that's right. That's right. Absolutely.
Well, all right. Thanks again, Brian, and we'll have you back. Have a great weekend.
Talk about the golf course, and I look forward to seeing you.
Okay. Thanks, Brian.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right, Lawrence, it was a great show with Brian Bonesteel and the New York Sherpa. So what's going on this weekend for you? Anything?
Watching some sports, taking my mother out to dinner tomorrow night for her birthday, and that's about it. Doing some house cleaning, and maybe get out and shoot some golf. Are you going out to shoot golf today?
Not today. I got a few other things I got to do, but like I said, tomorrow I'm going to go see the Nets. Hopefully they'll be
that's right. You're going to Brooklyn tomorrow.
Yeah,
Good.
Hopefully they'll be able to beat the Celtics and get going on the road to an NBA championship.
There you go. All right, well, you have a good weekend. Rick Remsnyder will be back Monday with Medical Monday. This week, Dr. Ed Alio will be on. So have a great weekend, everyone.